Hello and thank you for clicking on this video. I've got a nice treat for you Ford fans here. I've got a double review here of two Escort XR3i's in a 118 scale made by Sunstar. I did do a video a few weeks ago of the 118 Escort RS Turbo, and I've got lots of other Ford videos coming up, and then I'll move on to other cars. But for now, I'm just going to concentrate on these two Escorts. Now, anyone who's familiar with these vehicles will probably look back on these with fond memories, because they used to be a very common sight in the UK. These two models are made, as I said, by Sunstar, and they've got some very similar details, but they're also quite different in that one is obviously a convertible, and one is obviously the tin top. Now these are probably, I think, about 7 or 8 years old now. I don't think you can buy these new anymore, although there might be some new old stock lying around if you do look on the usual eBay and Amazon, etc. Sunstar is a sort of mid-range manufacturer, and I think they generally have quite good detail. These models in particular I think are really well detailed, and I'll go through some of the features and little details on these cars. Also, I'll start with the convertible. Now this is a 1984 specification. It's the Mark III Escort. This is actually the XR3i, although they did do other models. They did a 1.6 injection, which wasn't quite as sporty as the XR3. Same engine, but slightly different trim. They also did some non-injected, very basic versions as well. This is a very nicely detailed car. It's got full opening features. So you've got the opening doors. Very accurate looking interior, as you can see. It's got, in fact, it's actually got a really good representation of what these cars look like on the inside, because you had a special trim on the XR3i's with a little red piping, and that's got that kind of detail right there. And like I said, these Sunstars are quite good models. I think they're sort of very good mid-range models. Not quite up to your sort of auto art standard, but certainly I think an awful lot better than things like Barago and other sort of cheaper brands. It's got kind of every detail of this car, of its era, and really good sort of authentic makeup. So you've got your classic cloverleaf wheels, which are really accurate. Zoom in a little bit closer on those. Sorry, the camera's not focusing that well, but they've even got the little Ford emblems in the middle of the center caps. This one, funny enough, has actually got mud flaps. Didn't see many XR3i's with mud flaps back in the day, but this one's got them, as you can see. But the bumpers on the car are just like they were on the real car. They've got these little overriders. You've got the spot lamps, and under the bonnet, you can pop that open. Sorry about that little stoppage there. I'm just trying to get the bonnet open. A little bit difficult with these gloves, but I tend to wear gloves when I handle the cars, because I keep them sort of quite nicely polished up and kept in glass cabinets. So generally don't really want to touch them with fingerprints, because they just need cleaning again. So under the bonnet, you've got the CVH 1.6 engine. I think they had about 105 horsepower back in the day, which wasn't an awful lot back then, and obviously isn't an awful lot now either. But they were nippy enough for their day. Not as quick as the tin top ones, because they were substantially heavier, but you've got a very accurate little detailed engine there. You've also got things like the spark plug wires. They look really good, really sharp. You've got brake servos, suspension tops. You've even got the little sort of coil here. So that all looks really smart. As we work our way around the car, you can see again with the doors open, good accurate door cards, window winders, pedals, everything really. Even the little sun visors here, they're really good. They look just like the real thing. Even on the back of the seats, you had the on these Escort Mark III's, I remember these cars used to have a little section you could push in and out of the headrest, which sort of blanked them off, but you could actually pull those out and you just have an opening in the middle of the seat in the headrest, and this has actually got them just like the real car. Over in the boot, you've actually got a spare wheel, which is really good. It's a full-size spare like you used to get back in the day. So yeah, really all-round a good little model. And in the back, you've got the little pea shooter tailpipe, which is about right for what this car had. And you've got the louvered tail lights, which is a sort of iconic feature of Fords of the early 80s. But overall I think it's a really lovely model. It looks great in this lovely glossy black colour, and underneath you can see basically detailed underside. I mean, the exhaust is actually very accurate to what the real car had, even right down to where it sort of goes into the manifold, into the engine, and all this position of the cross member here is bang on for the real car. The chassis rails, this is a really good detailed model. I've got lots of these in different guises. I've got an RS1600i, I've got a couple of RS turbos of the same vintage, which I'll also be doing videos on. So let's move on to the Xr3i. This is the one which I've got a very personal soft spot for. This is the car everybody wanted back in the 80s. A really good alternative to cars like Golf GTIs and Astra GTEs. So I think this has got the iconic sort of 3-box shape with the lovely little hatchback. I think it's a really good looking model. The colour is slightly off because it's quite a sort of lustrous shade of red, and these early Xr3i's, this one's again an 84, didn't actually come in a red like this. They came in a sort of burnt orange reddish colour, which was called sunburst red if I'm correct. This is a much sort of deeper shade of red, sort of a Rosso red, which came on later Escorts. I'm not sure if it ever came on the Mark III, but it was kind of like the, you know, one of the most popular colours on the later Xr3i's and RS turbos and other Escorts. Well, this is a great little model. Again, you've got glass all round, you've got glass in the doors, you've got the sunroof. It's got virtually the same interior as the Convertible. Pop that back into place. And yeah, again, I mean, funny enough, this one's also got the mud flaps, but it has got all the unique features which came on the Xr3i. You had these little spats on the back wheel arches. It's got those. On the front, you also had the spats on the front corners, which wrapped around with a little sort of rubber lip on the bottom. And really that sort of whale tail type spoiler. Obviously it's not a raised whale tail like you'd get on a Cosworth or something of that sort of era, but it has got the exact sort of dimensions and proportions. Also had this little black trim around the back of the hatch, which was unique to the Xr3i's. It wasn't on the RS turbos or any other models. Again, the same with the black trim around the windows, and this is really faithful to the original car. I'm just going to open up the vehicle so you can have a look at all the inside and under the bonnet again. So just bear with me. Here we are with the car all fully open. So again, you've got an identical engine. Although with this, I think because it's red, it really sort of, the engine kind of pops out with the detail. Everything's in the right place. The batteries and actually the battery, funny enough, I said that everything's in the right place, but I'm pretty sure that these cars, the battery used to be in this corner over here, which is, I think, a bit odd that they've placed the battery over here, which I don't think I ever saw in Escorts, because they have a real rust spot, the real cars, right here inside the battery tray, which is one of the most common places for these cars to rust out. Maybe it's the early ones that the battery was on the left, I don't know, but I always thought the battery was over here. But anyway, other side from that, the engine looks really detailed again. Everything seems to be really sort of authentic. You've got the same sort of CVH engine, you've got the fuel injection sort of manifolds here, and going down to, I think they had pretty sure they had a Bosch fuel injection, so the pump would be down there somewhere. But again, it's a really good detail model. The grille spot on, bumpers with the overriders, little spot lamps. Again, you've got the cloverleaf wheels, really lovely. Inside, interior, really good. In fact, I think this one's even got, yep, it's got the cassette rack. So just in front of the gear stick, you can probably see that little in tray there. That is where these cars used to have a little box section where you could fit about 3 or 4 cassettes. So again, really of its time, really good. So inside the boot, you've got a movable parcel shelf. You've got the full-size spare wheel, just like the real car. All looks really good, even like inside the boot shut. So this is just like the real thing. So it's a cracking little car. Again, this one, like the other one, is made by Sunstar. Really nice detail. Now, as far as I know, these are the only 1/18 scale Escort Xr3i models you can buy. They also did do an XR3 version of this, which I'm pretty sure came in black by Sunstar again. But obviously, being the XR3, this is slightly different because it's the Xr3i version, which is obviously the fuel-injected version. But they're very similar. But I do personally like it in red. I think it looks really smart. These do actually have suspension. So if you can see here, you can actually, I need to stop saying actually, but you've got suspension on these. So if you do like to modify your die-cast vehicles, which I do actually do myself, I've got quite a few modified vehicles. I've sold many a modified one actually as well. So there are things you can do to these very easily. So with these models, you can actually open them up. They've got springs inside, so you can remove the springs, which drop the suspension right down. So if you have a look at that there, as far as I can push it down, if you want to go for a little slammed in the weeds look, quite easy to actually open it up, remove the springs, put it back together, very easy. And you can drop it how you want. If you want to make it look like it's got an authentic boombox in the boot, dropping the suspension at the back, you can drop the back down, make it look sort of sit up and beg, which many an Escort with a big stereo in the boot used to look like back in the day. Or you can drop the front down, make it look a bit more sort of focused, sporty, or you can drop the whole lot down. Just a sort of reasonable, which is probably about right if you were going to drop the suspension down to make it look like it's just had a mild lowering kit. But I think that's a really nice little touch that you can fiddle about with these if you want. But overall, a great little model. Now, I'm not sure how much these go for now, to be honest. I've not really looked around. I bought these, I think I bought about half a dozen of these at the time of various different models, XR3Is, RS1600s, RS Turbos. Bought also some basic GL models, some of which I modified with wheels and slamming and even paint jobs, and sold them on because I've done quite a few like that. But I think these are really good models. I've kept them completely original. They're quite hard to get hold of now, and a bit like the real cars, they seem to go for quite good money. I haven't looked recently, but when I did, they were going for, in some cases, quite surprisingly high numbers. But I can see why, because they've got really good detail. There's a big following for cars like these. So, you know, definitely, if you're a Ford fan, I think I'd shop around on eBay, have a look for something like these. But I'd certainly recommend these models. You know, I'm not one for just bigging up any model I happen to collect. There's other models I've got which, when I do videos on, you'll see that I'll point out the flaws in them. But these genuinely are models which I don't think you could really improve them an awful lot. I mean, if these are auto arts, you'd probably have some sort of flocked carpet in there. Maybe the seats would even be of sort of more velour-y material like you get on those high-end models. But to look at visually, I don't think you'd notice the difference. So these are about as good as you're going to get. If you want Escort Mark III models, XR3Is like this is probably the best you're going to get. And I think, you know, as a pair, black and red, they look really great together. Well, anyway, thank you for watching this video. If you do like this little series I'm doing on 118 diecast Ford models, there's going to be plenty more to come, so maybe hit that subscribe button if you want, and you'll see some more videos coming up in the near future. Thank you very much.